Alrighty then, it's time for an actual team battle Skarner. Yesterday's video was talking more about Summoner's Rift, Pushing 1, and this one is a game with friends. Yes, it's normal, and I do really know how to play Skarner, so I don't really need to practice him. But, you know, I felt like, you know what, so for some reason we picked Draft, and I wanted to jungle Nidalee, and I'd rather ban Nidalee right now, because reports say that she's fucking overpowered and more insane than she's ever been. So, yeah, right. Though, I have seen her in one game on stream, and damn, she fucking wrecked people. Anyways, attack speed red, armor yellow, magic resistance blue scaling, and so 4 cooldown reduction blues, or I think it's 5 cooldown reduction blues, and movement speed quints. My masteries, on the other hand, are quite unusual. 6 in offense, 21 in defense, and 3 in utility. 3 in utility are the movement speed. And the offense tree, it's the cooldown reduction, the attack speed, the butcher, and the percentage damage thing. So, as you can see, we're kind of couldn't get a gank early off, and my teammate died mid and also burned my flash and got me a little bit of hurt. However, I do get to steal some of his lane farm, which is a big deal for Skarner. Rushing to level 6 as quickly as possible is a huge thing. And by the way, I love the fact that I'm fighting Vi, who is basically the replacement for Skarner, and when it comes to, you know, what you actually want to do. Now, here's one thing that a lot of people have been telling me. Stonewall, Skarner's become so much more powerful. He deals so much damage. He's so like, brutal. He's OP and everything. And that actually makes me sick to my stomach. Because, honestly, Skarner has always dealt damage. He's always been ridiculous. Even his rework, the one where they removed the slow and gave him no compensation. That one, he did a lot of fucking damage. The problem was, when they removed the slow and put it on his E, they increased the difficulty of dealing damage. This is the same thing with Sejuani before. Old Sejuani, she had ridiculous amounts of damage. She arguably the most painful tank jungler in the game. However, she had a huge difficulty actually dealing that damage. So it's that whole thing saying, does it matter how much damage you have if you can't actually deal it? You can have 1,000,000 damage, but if you can't deal it, you might as well have 0. That's the idea. By the way, here we're all lagging, so it's like, you'll see, they're going to get like a disconnect from the Vi and disconnect from the Alistair. It's just kind of funny and kind of random. It's first day of the patch. You probably shouldn't play on the first day of the patch if you want a non-laggy game, which is why I didn't play ranked or stream that day. Nonetheless, yeah, it's true. Skarner's always been a really brutal motherfucker, and like with that tiny mini stun, he's got some more ease at dealing the damage he used to be able to do. He does a lot of damage. He's really dangerous in the slugfest. In a 1v1 slugfest, you will lose to Skarner. It was always said, who is the strongest jungle duelist? Udyr, Skarner, or Lee Sin, or Trundle? Yeah. And you couldn't really, well, also Olaf, you couldn't really debate it that easily without, you know, always coming up to Skarner being the best one. Thing is, there's two types of duelists. There's the one where they outmaneuver people, and there's the one that just beat up other people, just fisticuffs, just wail on them. Skarner would always win, the old Skarner, because if you get in melee range with him, he's gonna slow you to a crawl, and the amount of damage he deals early, especially with double buff, is ridiculous. Skarner deals a whole lot of damage. And also, I bought Spirit of the Lizard because it looks like his little tiny hand, so I guess this might as well, like, imagine it being a glove that I'm wearing that deals a lot of damage to the enemy. But, nonetheless, as I was saying, Skarner always dealt a lot of damage. He was always a brutal slugger. He was always, of course, a tanky champion with his shield, so I don't get how people are saying all these stupid things. And, you know, it's just Skarner. He didn't change much. He just made him, gave him a really nice buff that made him a little bit more user friendly. There you go. So it is a great buff, in my opinion. Actually, his E sucks so much, the slow, but in conjunction with the mini stun that it has, it makes a huge difference now. It's like it's a balanced ganking tool, and of course the ultimate is always a huge murder, killer, and kind of stuff. And a lot of players who honestly would talk crap about Skarner, like say, oh, Skarner's not a good champion or whatever, prior to him being nerfed and prior to him having a rework in the first place, they honestly just didn't play Skarner, or they were awful at him. He's really strong, but he's not a... But because his weaknesses are pretty damn glaring, you know, the whole melee thing, like completely 100% melee thing. His ass laser doesn't count. It's pretty much mostly useless, and it always has been useless. Now it has some use, but it's still pretty bad. The way of playing him is a little bit more unique than others. It isn't the same as Udyr, who runs in there and mauls someone to death. Skarner's more like dodge and weave, like moving in figure eights when you're trying to fight people. Just, you know, hit them on the left, go around them, hit them on the right, hit them on the left, just move, dodge and weave in circles. I don't know, it's kind of cool. You'll see that in the fight soon, so the little movement. Hell, you've actually seen the movement. If you want to, rewind the part where I fought Lee Sin, where I ganked him, and you'll see how I did the movements there. It's just to avoid a lot of crap. Hell, in one part in this game, I will run away from my opponents, and it will be pretty cool how I do with Skarner. So, all the fights I do with Skarner are highly movement based, which actually was one of the biggest nerfs to Skarner. I'll explain right now. So, of course, I ignore the front line because I don't need to give a crap about them. And I just head straight for Ezreal, pick him up, grab them, and got him killed. Anyways, movement speed was a huge deal with him, which the biggest nerf to him wasn't exactly him getting targeted, but the nerfs to the items he liked to use. Shurelya's Reverie was such a huge deal when it got nerfed, when you couldn't no longer buy it as a jungler because, you know, the gold minimum thing. That was a huge deal. Shurelya's Reverie early on Skarner allowed you to get more movement speed than you normally would be able to get from having boots. So if you rush Shurelya's Reverie on Skarner, you'd be able to just rocket into a gank, grab them, and kill them, and then buy boots right after. So you will have boots at some point. So anyways, fight breaks out at Dragon. Alistair goes ham and then kills. They're able to kill Dragon. Though of course, if I should have still been able to smite it, so I don't know why she didn't. And the fight goes, you know, for the enemy team. Blue team wins that fight. However, a Dragon is worth it. So a Dragon is worth those 2 deaths. I go in. I flashed a little too early. I couldn't flash over the wall, but I still grabbed Lee Sin and ended his life. And now I'm giving lots of chase to Lulu. The ramp-up speed on a W is still pretty bad, but on the other hand, you know, if he had a static movement speed buff at this point, now that he has a mini stun on his Q and he has a long-range slow on his E, it probably would be a little overpowered. Do I think Skarner's overpowered? No, I don't actually think he's overpowered. In fact, I can't think he's overpowered at this point because, you know, he does have some real weaknesses. They've always been there. His damage has always been there. If that lone stun makes him overpowered, then it's gonna be pretty fucking sad, really. Because they had nerfed other aspects of him in order to give him that stun. Anyways, fight breaks out. Lee Sin easily dies, and before Vi tries to use her Q, I grab her and pull her back in and make sure she dies. That's for taking Skarner's spot as in champion selection, bitch. So, like I said, his E, I'm actually liking his new E a lot better. I mean, his E didn't get buffed, right? So it's the same E from when the rework happened. The thing though, his E in conjunction with having another form of crowd control, which is located on his Q, is really a really big. Well, Q and his passive is a really big deal. So, like, you know, synergizing stuns or whatever. The long range Q, long range G, and then you zoom in with your W, and then you pin them down with whatever. Either way, here's a chase. I get bashed around. They do everything they can. First thing I do is I stun Lee Sin and drag him into the bush, and then run around this line of sight. Of course, he kind of went backwards, so he wouldn't have been able to see me. I slow him. I move down, and then I just kind of slither around in a sort of S motion. Well, that's one of the things about having high movement speed that one needs to learn how to do. You have high movement speed. Running in a straight line tends to defeat the purpose of having a lot of movement speed sometimes. If you move in a weaving fashion, you'll dodge a lot more shit because usually you'll outrun or, you know, outspeed most of their skill shots or animations. Other way, Lee Sin and them, they couldn't kill me, so I got to live. Fight breaks out again. The front line just gets decimated because we have a lot of AoE, and Skarner's Q with Lizard Elder is really, really painful. I grab Lulu as soon as we kill, what should we call it? Their Lee Sin. I grab the Lulu to make sure she's the next one we kill, and then the rest of this team just kind of falls over and bleeds to death. So, fun with Skarner. We take out this turret, Xerath manages to stun the Ezreal, and then we just go on a gung-ho mission to kill him. I flash over to try to see if I could stun him before I get shot by the towers, but at least Xerath manages to pick it up. Now, I am going to be probably using more Skarner now, and it's not because he got incredibly much more, you know, badass or anything. Well, it is a really nice buff, really. It's just a lot more user-friendly. Having the stun just means I don't have to worry about, like, just missing my E. At least I have something else to fall back onto. So, we wiped them out. Their Vi gets killed, so they don't have a jungler, and Lee Sin gets killed, so their stealing is really gimped if he even tried it. And we'll be able to get an easy Baron from this. We catch ourselves a Thresh, and he dies right after. And I make a beeline straight for the Lulu. This is why I like the new E. Look at the range on that. Boom! I snipe her, and then, like, every other movement speed steroid I have, well, just thanks by the Jace, actually, I'm able to catch the Lulu, and we kill her, and then Graves kills the Ezreal as well. Like I said, if I had a Shurelya's buff right there, I mean, it would have been gorgeous. Of course, I have a Jace, which might as well be a Shurelya's buff. So, fun fact, Skarner and Alistar used to be a really, really old-school double-teaming partners, because, you know, it worked. Flash pulverize, push back, Skarner pulls them, and then they to their death, and then moldy tears are had and shit like that. So, yeah. Yeah, so, again, I know I'm kind of like a broken record at this point. In conclusion, the new change, the little stun on Skarner, is a good buff. It didn't give him so much more damaging power. It just made it easier for him to deal his ridiculous amounts of damage. Whether or not that makes him overpowered could happen, but honestly, it's pretty stupid if people, like, you know, start saying, oh, he does so much damage, because he's always dealt it. Like, people need to credit him for what he actually had as strengths prior to that. Anyways, if you enjoy this game, and if you will just support my channel, go give the video a like, and read the question of the day in the description, and comment. Anyways, hooray for Skarner and his new little stun buff. It's awesome.